Brand new episode of the podcast for those who want to change collaboration in the workplace with practical advice that have been tasted and tried, not just in theory. I'm your host, Pierre-Cyril. You can call me PC, and welcome on Collaboration Solved. Today, we welcome Vienna Blum, which is a program designer and lead facilitator at Frank, a female empowerment and leadership community. She has more than 15 years of experience in the corporate, nonprofit, and educational sectors, and she helps teams and individuals to address underlying issues that deplete productivity, clarity, and creativity. His facilitation style is to create deep trust and psychological safety to encourage individuals and groups to take risks and tap into their inner wisdom. Thank you very much, Vienna, for being there.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun. Love talking about this stuff.
Yeah. So in the last episode, we uncover how fundamental it is to create a trusty climate where you engage into supporting change into a group. And today, I'd like to focus on how you specifically create a climate of trust when you're working in remote with teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot about this because building trust one-on-one is already a challenge. Like when you're doing like a coaching relationship, building a trust in groups is another layer, another dimension of complexity to build trust, because the participants are not just trusting me, they have to trust each other. And then when you bring all of that online, you bring then another dimension of complexity, because building trust when you're sort of just staring at a screen or if you're an avatar or something is really difficult, because now you're so removed from the physical environment. So I definitely see it as something that's difficult. And even though I have a lot of experience building trust online in teams, I will never say that it's easy. And when I start with a new team, it's always a new challenge, and there's always full of surprises. So I want to start there and really be explicit about how difficult it can be, and how we cannot be smug or overly confident about how quickly we can build trust online in groups, and how important it is to take the time that it will take to get there, and to recognize that there's not a simple recipe.
I understand that there is no secret formula to create trust in a team, so it may be specific to each environment, each team composition, and maybe each team climate or environment of a group. But what are the main challenges that you observed globally in your experience?
Well, I'll talk a little bit about some of the main challenges that I've noticed, and then I'll talk a little bit about different ways to go about addressing it, depending on sort of time, resources, willingness of organizations to go there. And I think that one of the challenges online is that we're just disconnected. And it's just the technological element of just kind of being alone, staring at a screen, not feeling that physical energy with other people, not being able to kind of like share a little smile out of your, the corner of your mouth because maybe somebody said something funny and you're sharing a moment or a glance with someone in the room. There's not an opportunity for those really subtle moments of genuine connection when we're online. And I really feel that. And even as disruptive as it can be in person as a facilitator, when people are sort of talking on the side or interrupting, those are moments where the group is actually building trust. And as a facilitator in person, I have to admit that now after, going through COVID, now when I'm working in groups and I am in person, I sort of give a little bit more space for the silliness, for the disruptions, because I know that that's where the group is bonding. Even if it's interrupting my plan, I'm like, who cares about my plan? They're bonding, they're connecting. This is meaningful right now, and it's going to serve us later. So it's kind of funny how I've had like insights in terms of like how I've adjusted my in-person stuff. But online, it's just so much harder. And the whole mute thing, I don't know if you have this experience, PC, but like with everyone on mute and you facilitating to just silence, it is so awkward. And like just kind of people sitting in that awkward silence, I feel also makes, allows kind of introverts to hide, and then makes extroverts feel like I don't know where I belong. So both people are feeling slightly uncomfortable in their own bodies, which also doesn't really help develop any sense of comfort, warmth, connection. So yeah, I can probably go on and on, but the mute thing really drives me nuts. I'd rather have cacophony and noise than have everyone on mute, because it's a very lonesome existence, not just for the facilitator, but for everyone who's just kind of sitting there with this expectation of like, impress me. So they don't need to make as much of an effort. Like I feel like when you're in person, people have to show up and listen with their whole body and really show that they're engaged. Whereas when people are online, it's much easier to hide behind kind of a lack of engagement, either be doing other things at the same time or just not listening with their whole body. And even though that's a different topic, that's engagement, when there's a lack of engagement, it's much harder to build trust. So it's two different topics, but very interrelated from my experience.
Okay. So the invisible moments, the gaps, the moments where there is no conversations are propice to create trust. So the small talks and the maybe visual cues that we share, like we have right now, are a good way to create trust.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Also the craziness.
Yeah.
Okay. The fun, the impromptu moments.
Absolutely.
That we totally lose when we are in remote.
Exactly. And
we suppress those moments. We suppress it was like waste of time. We don't maybe permit ourselves to have those.
Well, they're less natural online, so they feel like, they're unnatural online, so they don't feel like there's a real place. And when we are kind of leading online conversations, there's this sort of underlining assumption that we need to be in control more than in person. So yeah, you're right. We do suppress it. Yeah. But I feel like there's something, I think that what you're tapping on as you're reflecting back of what I was saying. Sorry, I have a dog in the background.
Perfect. Impromptu things.
Impromptu. That's it.
I can connect with you better now.
Now that you know that I have some craziness in my house. Well, that's it. Well, the humanity comes out, right? So, I mean, this is the one good thing about the online environment, is that we can't hide our real lives that are going on behind us, whether it's children or animals. So bringing that humanity into the online space is the opportunity for connection. So all of those problems or distractions are the best way to build trust, right? Because in an office, you don't have all those distractions, but people are having a bunch of kind of subtle conversations, body language, like glances. It's like there's all these like little mini dialogues and conversations that are happening outside of the conversation that are unsaid, but either from energy or looks. And so since those are not kind of available online, the only way that we can sort of tap into collective humanity is from, the mess. Whether it's the mess of my office or the noise mess. And so as a facilitator, we can connect to those things. We can bring those in and allow people to kind of connect to their humanity, because we can control ourselves so much more in a box.
Yeah.
So if we don't want to let people in or build trust, it's very easy to just kind of create a force field. So it becomes a facilitator's role to kind of draw people in and feel safe to kind of let go of those force fields and say, okay, well, show me what's your mess today. That could be a good warm-up question. What made your day messy today? Or something like that. That could be a really fun icebreaker.
Nice.
Yeah, because icebreakers are so essential online. I don't call them icebreakers. I just call them warm-ups. But oh my God, it's so important to get the voices in the room from like the beginning. And whether it's through text, chat, or actual voices, I think that it's a really essential part of that sort of trust building formula is to get those voices in the virtual room. So
I'm curious, what's your favorite icebreaker to create trust entering into a group that you don't know?
It's a good question.
Warm-ups.
Warm-ups, yeah. Well, we can call them whatever you want.
Online warm-ups.
Yeah, I mean, for me, usually the warm-ups have to do directly with the content. So if we're doing a session about building, recognizing competencies or strengths, then I might do a warm-up about strengths. Like I very rarely like to do warm-ups that are super unrelated, but one of them that I really like to do online that's kind of unrelated, sometimes I can bridge it to the content, is something called That's Awesome. Have you done that with me?
I don't remember.
Okay, so it's really, really simple. It's actually an improv game. And we invite people to simply share something that's happened today. And the more mundane, the better. Like it could be literally like, I spilled coffee on myself, or I took a shower this morning. Like literally, you can't mess it up. It could be big, small, medium, good, bad. But you share something that happened today. And then after you share it one by one, everyone in the room yells at the same time, "That's awesome," and uses a lot of bodily expressions. You need to use like your whole box. You can't just be like, "That's awesome." You have to be like, "That's awesome." And so every time someone shares something mundane, like I spilled my coffee this morning, everyone's like, "That's awesome." So you're infusing, you're injecting energy into the space. It's kind of silly. The person who shares like feels like they're having a moment. And they're a little famous for about 3 seconds. And we're also listening to each other and really like, we're captivated. We're somehow captivated by the mundane in each other's lives. And so it connects everyone through like, we're just humans, we're just here. And if someone has something positive to celebrate, often people share it. If something kind of unfortunate happened today, like it's a safe space to share it. And the best part is that the facilitator doesn't really have to guide it. You just kind of give the simple instruction, and naturally, whatever people need to share will share, because that enthusiasm creates safety.
Nice.
Yeah.
So celebrating fuck-ups.
Celebrating fuck-up. Well, so that's the thing. So you can shift it, right? If you're facilitating it and you know you're going to be talking about failure, then make sure that you have the warm-up be about what's something that didn't go your way today, right? Okay. If it's really a new group and like you're doing something maybe a little more neutral, you might just say, just share something that happened today. You know, if you're just doing like a kind of a retreat, an office retreat. So you adapt it to sort of to fit what you're talking about of that day. I'm trying to think, I adapted it recently. I can't remember, but yeah, you adapt it recently to something, and it could be something celebratory too, if it's a leadership development program and you want to celebrate something. So you kind of take it where you want. So that's one of my favorite ones. Very simple.
So is it, I understand that we can broad that formula and try to tweak it how much in the way we want to address the conversation. So it's about safety, it could be about failures, it could be about collaboration. Is that what I understand, is that you try to connect the topic of the conversation with the human themselves. So what they did today, and that can relate to the topic.
Yeah, I like connecting. Well, because it really is a warm up, right? Like just like if you know you're going to do a cardio workout and you're going to be using your hips a lot, then we're going to warm up our hips a little bit, right? So it's kind of like to warm up that muscle. If we're going to be asking people to do a lot of challenging reflection about their past, you know, and we know that we're going to have to get people to do some storytelling from like 10 years ago, then I might actually say, share something that happened when you were 20. or share something that happened when you were a kid that you just remembered all of a sudden. So use the warm up to actually warm you up. And so I adapt all of my icebreakers that way, depending on what needs to be activated. And that's another way to build trust, by the way, is when, and that's trust in the facilitator, because sometimes you meet a new group and they're skeptical, they're kind of like, who's this person who's going to tell us what to do? And then you say, oh, we're going to do an icebreaker, and everyone starts rolling their eyes like, oh, an icebreaker. We're going to have to go talk about something stupid or do something dumb that has nothing to do with anything. These like icebreakers are so kind of fake. But when you actually connect the icebreaker with something meaningful that they're going to do, that's a way to build trust. They're like, oh, we weren't just doing this thing to do the thing. We're actually doing it because we're going to be learning more about this or practicing that. And that builds trust in the facilitator to trust the process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you mentioned that there is some case where you're invited into a group that may not be welcoming you or maybe not ready to create trust. Maybe there is distrust in the team. How do you detect that there is probably maybe no trust in the team? What are the smells?
That's a good question. So I'm always assessing, just to kind of widen the context a bit. I'm always assessing participants' willingness, readiness, and capacity. I'm always like using my sort of senses to be like, are they willing to be here? Are they willing to be a part of this? Are they capable of it? What's their level of capacity? Sorry, I just forgot the other one. Willing, able, and oh my God. The other one, I use this language all the time. Anyway, it just ready. Sorry, the other was ready.
And readiness.
Ready, right? So I'm always assessing it, and there's many different ways that I assess it. Sometimes I assess it beforehand with the client or with a small group to kind of get to know them. If in a perfect situation, I'm getting to know the group before I'm meeting them. So I'm be able to say, like, are they really ready for this workshop? Are they really willing to be part of this? Do they have the capacity to develop this competency? So I like to do all the assessment before so I can really zero in and adapt my session to meet them where they are. But I don't always have that luxury. And sometimes I just show up. And a lot of the icebreaker is a data collection for me. So as much as I'm adapting the icebreaker for them to build trust or to build comfort or to warm them up for the topic or their voices, I'm also collecting data to say like, they're not so willing to share today. That's good to know. Or they're not really ready. Like I remember I did a workshop recently in in kind of like a startup space where everyone works behind screens. And I did an in-person session. And these are people that very rarely work in person. And we did a very simple warm-up where we just had to pass a clap in a circle. And it was so hard for these adults to do this very simple game. And these were like resistant people, like, what? You're going to make us like stand up and do a thing with clapping our hands? And I was like, interesting that you guys were all very resistant in this game because it was really hard for you. So we may need to practice this a little more. And just that exercise kind of, first of all, broke the tension, made people laugh a little bit. They laughed at me, I laughed at them. It was like a good opportunity to kind of start building some trust. But it also showed me they're not really ready yet. They may need another warm up or another conversation. And they're not really willing to try new things. They're not willing to be uncomfortable. So I adapted some things that I was going to do later because I realized that that's too far outside their comfort zone. So there's so much about icebreakers in those first 5 minutes that just allow me to collect the right data so I can adapt it and start addressing resistance before it gets, bigger than I can handle.
Okay. And in your own experience, you cited three main areas that you like to assess before a session. for example, for the readiness, what are the things that can make a group ready to create trust or not?
What are the things? It's a good question, because so much of it is
What are
intuitive.
the ingredients that needs to be there for a group to be ready
I think
to
that they
create
need
trust?
I think first they have to see the purpose. They have to be connected to the purpose. If they don't understand why they're there, and this plays in with the willingness too, obviously, but like they won't be ready to do some soul searching or deep reflection. They won't be ready to do that if they haven't done some kind of like prep work, or they haven't acknowledged collectively that there is a problem, for example. So I think there's not sort of like a one answer to this. We have to look at, what are we doing today? What is the purpose of the session? And based on the purpose of the session and where we want to go, then I can say, what do they need to be ready for this? If today we're going to be co-creating, I don't know, the mission of the group, what would a group need to be ready to do that kind of work? What's the pre-work? And so maybe at the beginning or with the client, I'll try to figure out, are they there? So that's why it's not like kind of like a one-stop shop, because even for the building trust part, it's ready to be building trust. Okay, hold on a second. Let me think about it. In order to be ready to build trust, they have to know each other. They have to get to know each other. They have to understand that everyone has skin in the game, that everyone cares, that no one is dangerous. Like it's pretty fundamental. It's a kind of all of the ingredients to create sort of that brave space or safe space, depending on how you want to call it. So it's just creating safety to be able to do the work, I think, is what a group would need to be ready to collaborate or ready to be in group work. Yeah, I think just traditional safety rails, agreements, norms, that kind of stuff. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think a group would need?
I see the connection now on what we discussed really at start. Those silly moments, those moments that we now suppress in remote to be silly, or just having a nonsense conversation, because it creates that safe space where I can be myself in front of you, and you can know a little bit of myself. Hearing your dogs, for example. So if it's in remote, if we don't have this, we don't create that space. Just talking to an avatar. I don't see you. I don't see your space, because you have a fake replacement background, for example. You have, I don't know, a filter on the face that's remove your skin, and maybe you have a 3D avatar instead of your own face. Everything is fake. So how can I connect with you? How can I create trust? I now see better the connection.
With the avatar concept?
Just for creating safety in a group when you're not connected with our just humanity and faith.
Yeah,
real you know.
Yeah, it's so weird, because like having all those layers of like armor to protect ourselves may make me feel safe, right? There's some people that are saying that using avatars are a good way for therapy now, because people feel safe if they show up in their avatar and they can kind of control how they show up or something. I don't know. There's been different people talking about this. So me as an avatar, I might feel safer because I'm protected by this. But how can I build trust with someone else? Like, that's where it gets really complex. Because why would someone trust me if I'm just layers and layers of armor? But I think there's a really fun opportunity in that. Like, now I'm just like thinking out loud for fun of like, the warm up can just be like, why did you choose that avatar? Why did you choose blue eyes? What do blue eyes mean to you? Like, so you give them like a warm up question just in twosome groups of 2 to like tell the story of their avatar and where it came from and why they chose purple walls or whatever it is. And by talking about their why and like, why do you feel you need that avatar? Why do you feel you want to change? Why do you want to be different? It ends up, people end up talking about their humanity of saying, well, I've never had long hair. My mom always kept it short. So having an avatar with really long hair is like an act of rebellion, and then I'm like, oh my God, I see you. I see you for who you are. Okay. You always wanted to be a long haired person. Anyway. So yeah, but it takes longer because you have to add in those conversations, those pre-conversations to get people ready to trust each other. Yeah.
So it's all about be comfortable to be vulnerable in front of others. You talk about protection.
Yeah.
I protect myself. So if I try to create trust with someone, I need to be a little bit vulnerable in front of those people.
1,000%. But it's like, at what level of vulnerability? Like, that's the thing. The role of the facilitator becomes like, how much vulnerability are we going to let in? Like, how are we going to let people choose it? Which is actually something I like to do, is asking a question to a group that is a neutral question, right? So let's say the question is either in groups of 3 or in front of everyone, or like, I don't know what the format is, but a question such as, tell us something that not that many people know about you.
Yeah.
Okay. That question is such an amazing question, especially in a large group, because the first person might say something like, I got a master's degree, in biotechnic something. I don't know. And people are like, okay, cool. And then, so that kind of keeps the level of vulnerability hot. Like, it's not vulnerable. It's like very safe.
Yeah.
But then, and like, as the facilitator, I might notice that no one is going deeper than that. People are just sharing very superficial. And then I'll say as a facilitator, oh, I'll share something. And I might say, what not that many people know about me is that when I travel, I like to get really lost. So I'm all alone in a city and I have to find my way. And I love being in that space. So I'm going a little deeper, and then people hear me. So then the next person goes a little deeper, and then you see what I mean? So it's like you're playing with the levels of vulnerability, but you first let the group to set the tone. Because I've had other groups that nobody knows each other, but the first person, for whatever reason, reveals something big. And then everyone reveals something big. And then you're just like, okay, this is where we are. The starting place is different than what I expected. Yeah. So let's work from here. But it's just to honor that and to, as facilitator, know when to inject a little bit more vulnerability. Like, I share things about myself sometimes. Like, when I'm really feeling like a group is not shifting, I'll like talk about my divorce. Like, I'll talk about something really raw just to bring people to say like, oh, if the person with power and authority is sharing that, then like, I guess, okay, I can relax a little bit. I'm human too. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. So anyway, so it's like, it's playing with that and just acknowledging where people are at in terms of sharing and vulnerability. But I agree with you. That's fundamental to building trust.
I really like the connection I see between the topic and how we develop that today. You mentioned before that it's really important that for making sure that people are ready to start creating trust in a group. If the conditions are not maybe there, that they are connected to the purpose. How can you do that? How can we connect people to a purpose? How can we build a purpose agenda or whatever you call that?
An agenda? I mean, I always start my sessions with something called I do art. So sometimes I start with a check-in and sometimes I start with my I do art. It depends on the group and what I'm feeling, what is needed. But I always share I do art. I do art is I represents the intention. What is the intention of this session? The intention of this session is to build a purpose statement for our team. Great. What are the desired outcomes? At the end of this, I want to ensure that we leave with a clear purpose statement, a sense of group cohesion, and some stories will be shared about, what you do. So people will be getting to know each other and what role they serve. Great. So that's I do, desired outcome. Art or heart. So H becomes how. How are we going to do this? We're going to do this with dialogue. We're going to be doing this with interaction, engagement. We're going to be standing up and walking around. There might be some time that we're going to be in silence walking around. That's how we're going to do it. So that's already like people are relaxing. Okay, that's how we're going to do it. Good to know. A is agenda. So what are we going to do? We're going to do a check-in. We're going to do this activity, that activity, and then we'll do a checkout. Okay, now people are relaxing. And then R is rules and roles. So I often talk about the roles. My role is I'm going to be the facilitator. What does that mean? I'm just going to guide you guys through a bunch of activities. I'm just kind of giving instructions and holding space and making sure that, that we're on time. And your role is to ensure that you're engaged, that you are participating, and that you're contributing to this purpose statement that we're building together. And in order to do that, what I really need from you guys is to be open-minded and to take maybe an hour to suspend any judgment you have from each other. Be curious. Make sure that it's confidential what happens here. So, so I integrate the roles with I integrate the rules with the roles. And that, again, another layer of safety. And T is timing. And timing is important because I say, don't worry, I'll get you out of here by 5. And again, layers of stress and their shoulders being up, go lower and lower and lower. And then the check-in to be connected to the purpose, because now they know what the purpose is. I might say something like, share what brings you here. Now that you know that that's the intention and everyone knows why we're here, what brings you here? And they might say, my boss made me come, or because I want to be part of building the purpose. I might say, what's the intention? What's your intention of being here? And that connects them to the purpose. And by hearing each other share their intentions or why they're here, allows people to start trusting each other, because they say, okay, I came because I want to be part of this mission building, purpose building. And he cares too. She cares as much as I do. Okay, we can do this together.
Okay, I do art. Yeah. This is your way to frame and set up the table.
Yes.
To make sure that people know where they're going and know what it's expecting from them before going into deeper into the topic.
Yeah, and to ensure that we're on the same page. Because if people are like, "Hey, I signed up for a meeting about poetry. I'm not supposed to be here." Like let's make sure that we're aligned. Like, oh, you wanted poetry? Can we bring that in? So we're starting all on the same page. I think is also really important for trust.
Okay, so is it your way to creating trust with the group, or does it also serve for creating inner group trust?
It's both, because especially with the rules part, I usually will pause and say, in order to be able to be super interactive and be in dialogue or be in silence, I'm proposing these rules or like norms. Is there anything missing? Take a moment and think, what do you need to be able to be in interaction with people? And someone might say, I need respect. I need to feel like people are going to respect me. And I look at each other. Does everyone feel ready to commit to respecting each other? Yes. So they're starting to build their own container. Like I'm launching it, but they have the opportunity to continue building it. But at least just by listening to me name the rules or the norms, whatever you want to call them, everyone is kind of committing to it. It's like a collective, commitment ceremony around what are we committing to adhere to as a set of rules in order to get to that purpose. And now I feel safer in my body, safer with each other. Yeah. It's all about building the container. It's such a funny way to put it, but like building trust is the container. It's like, it's all one of the other. It's all interconnected. Building, and then we're always building the container, like at all times. And that's one of the jobs of the facilitator, is to keep people safe. Not just direct the content, not just direct the mission and the purpose, but to always be checking, is everyone participating? Are the introverts getting their voices heard? Are people feeling respected? and just paying attention to that, because somebody needs to.
Yeah. So you're invited into this group not just to make sure that the group is not only just for making sure that the group attain an objective, but also make that in a safe way for collaboration.
Yeah, we're not just driving the purpose, because the purpose can't be done well without everyone being at their best, kind of thing. Because if everyone is building a purpose statement, it's just a good example. If everyone's building a purpose statement, but they're not feeling comfortable or present or like themselves, then the output is going to be totally false. The purpose statement of this group is fake. It doesn't represent reality. But if you're able to spend time and energy investing in creating, bringing out the genuine, authentic sides of everyone, then their output is going to be that much richer, that much more beneficial to whatever they want to use that in. So I can argue with clients who are like, oh, why do we need 3 hours to do this? I can say that to them. I was like, well, I could do it in 20 minutes, but like, it's just going to be kind of like a write-off. It'll just be like humoring me. But if we take the time to really get juicy, get real, connect, really speak from the heart, then what comes out is going to be like a real representation of what this group can make possible. And then the client is like, oh, okay, we can do it in 3 hours.
Is it, did you recall some time or occasions where the conditions were not right? For example, the willingness was not there, the readiness were not there. How did you call out? How did you get out of this?
Yeah, I'm thinking both online and in person. Yeah, I'll go, because we've been discussing online, so I'll bring it to the online context. I've totally felt it in the online context, where people are just not really showing up. Something's holding them back. And I've had to just do an intervention in the moment and kind of recognize that there is an elephant in the room that's holding them back. So I've actually stopped the process and asked out loud, like, what do you need to be able to show it fully right now? Maybe I'm going to invite everyone to take a 15-minute break. I want everybody to go for a walk outside, have a drink of water, and think about what you need to be able to show up fully. I've done that before. And then when we came back, some people put in the chat anonymously or on like a Jamboard anonymously, saying something like, well, I need to know what the director really has in mind. I feel like he has a secret agenda. And so I was like, okay. So I brought the director in and said, we're going to do a fishbowl. We're going to bring a few people in the center and we're going to have a chat. Not everybody, because it's too intimidating. And a fishbowl, what's cool about a fishbowl online is you kind of just spotlight a few people so you can create intimacy, create a little intimate chat. I usually don't jump in right away. I'll have like 3 people in the spotlight or something like that. And we'll like warm up first, a little light, and then we'll get into the meat, and they feel like they're alone. So they're actually able to go pretty deep, and the people around can listen to what they need to hear in order to be able to move forward. And I've done that in an online retreat. I like stop the presses. I'm like, we're not moving forward. This is a waste of time to just pretend that we're going somewhere.
Does that help?
It did help.
In that case?
Yes, it did help in that case. And I had no idea. I did not know that the issue was lack of transparency. Like, I could not have guessed it because nobody said it. So the things that helped were I made people stop. I made people say, I see you. I made people believe I care. And we're just not going to play the game. I invited people to go get fresh air and reflect, truly. And I let them know that there would be an anonymous space where they can share what they think. And though that formula allowed me to redesign for that need. And while everyone was taking a walk, I actually was talking with the director, saying like, "Listen, are you ready to do whatever we need to be able to get there?" And he said yes. So I knew at the time that we could pivot.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just one example. I don't know. That one came to mind. Is that helpful?
Yeah. So as of what I understand, it's just not the nuke button, but it's also a safe way to make sure that we stop right away what we are already doing, that it's not working, recognizing and acknowledging publicly that it's not working. Mm-hmm. So you're still fostering that safety, that it's okay to say it, that it's not working. We can stop, we can have a walk or whatever, and go back when we are ready and make sure that we state what do we need to be ready.
Yeah, which is a practice. Practicing saying what we need to be ready is the work. I mean, if I can leave every facilitation just teaching that, I'd be like happy. No, but seriously, like for people to be able to just learn how to communicate what they need to be ready, or what they need to be able to do this work, we're good. Like that's all people really need to know. Like that, to me, that's like the essential of the work that we do, is helping people to acknowledge their needs in order to collaborate. Like collaboration doesn't work without understanding our needs and knowing how to communicate them. That's like for me, the essence of it all.
You already give me a hint of an interesting topic to cover on the podcast.
Yeah.
So the next episode would be on understanding the need to make sure that we collaborate.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vienna, for sharing your tips on building trust despite the distance. I hope that it will be inspiring listeners to put these tips on action. And I will be glad to see you on another episode.
Yeah, anytime. I love to chat about this stuff. There's not that many people that want to hear me talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm always happy to.
If you have any feedback on the application of those tips or experience to share after trying them out, please write it into the comments below. To learn more about how to implement a transformation of collaboration, please subscribe to the website collaborationsolve.com. You'll receive an actionable summary of today's discussion that you can put in practice immediately. I see you next time for more tips and tricks tested on the field, not just theory, to change collaboration in your workplace. Allez, des bisous!